My talk of the table is Kareem Abdul-Jabbar and his response. He's one of the greatest basketball players of all time. His response to what's happened. The NBA's all-time leading scorer has also been a social and political activist throughout his career. He boycotted the 1968 Olympic Games and supported Muhammad Ali's decision to refuse to fight in the Vietnam War. In a very powerful op-ed that was published Saturday in the Los Angeles Times, the best-selling author defended the nationwide protest against police brutality. First, on CBS This Morning, we're very happy to say that, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar joins us from his home in Newport Beach, California. It's really good to see you, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. Let me just say, your op-ed brought tears to my eyes. The headline is, "Don't Understand the Protest? What you're seeing is people pushed to the edge." And I had to stop for a second and take that in. And I love how you started the op-ed. You talk about the differences between the way black people and white people may be perceiving this, including the Central Park jogger case, the Central Park woman. Can you just give a couple of examples in the point you were trying to make here?
Well, I think I can ask a question, and I think that would really crystallize everything. Everybody, I think, remembers what Colin Kaepernick went through, and his protest was a peaceful protest about this very issue, and he was ostracized, he lost his job, and he was blackballed for it. That was peaceful protest. That's what it got him. That's the benefit that it got him, and nothing has changed since then. Think about this. Nothing has changed since what was supposed to be a routine traffic stop of Rodney King. That was 30 years ago, and still nothing has changed. White cops still can act with impunity and kill people that they feel like they want to kill. It's got to stop someplace, and powerless people have no voice. A lot of them are losing their opportunity to vote because the Republicans are working very hard to limit voter participation. So what tools do these people have to affect change? Got to think about that. And
you say,
something
Kareem,
needs to change. They can't accept that.
I do think for the first time a lot of people are thinking about it. You say black protesters are people pushed to the edge, not because they want bars and nail salons open. They just want to live and to breathe. Racism in America, you said, is like dust in the air. Explain what you mean by that.
Well, it's just like have you ever been in a room and there's something, you feel a little something itching in your nose? There's something in the air, a dust or a pollen that you can't see. But if you take a flashlight and shine it through the air, you see all these little dust motes in the air and little particles of things. Racism is like that. It's ingrained in our society, and it's taken for granted. And all of the things that are taken for granted can accumulate and be deadly on certain segments of the population, and it comes down on the heads of poor people and people of color.
You say for those who say the looters are hurting the cause, you said you're not wrong, but you're also not right. And I think it's so important, Kareem, to make the distinction between, for the most part, these protests are peaceful, but where a lot of attention is focused on the looting and the burning of the police cars. And I just don't want the message to be lost about what is at stake here and what people are really talking about. So you say you're not wrong, but you're not right either.
I think we have to look at it that way, because these are people who do not have any opportunity to have their voice heard and have someone react to it and with respect and appreciation of what they're saying. They do not have that power. They're powerless. And I have this vision of a sign that I saw in Minneapolis that said, "Can you hear us now?" That to me was very significant. I think that's what it's about.
We remember in 1968 when you boycotted the Olympics. What do you think this current generation can learn from what you experienced? What differences do you see?
Well, I think that this current generation has to understand that they have to cross the finish line with what needs to be done, and that's going to take a lot of determination and organization They're going to have to get out and vote and make their voices heard in a way that can affect change. Violence and looting and burning might get you some attention, but it's not going to change anything significantly. So the people that are doing that really have to realize that, and they have to step up and organize and vote.
Yeah, Killer Mike was very, very powerful over the weekend, where he said anger is not a strategy. The mayor of Atlanta said protests, you need a plan. You can't just start marching in the streets. And it sounds like you're saying the same thing, too. You need to have a strategy. You need to have a plan.
We have to have a plan, and we have to engage our fellow citizens and get them to do what's right, because too many times we find out too late that the American people are behind law and order in a way that can benefit all Americans. That's not a foreign subject to them, but they don't understand the difference between what they experience and what the average person of color experiences, and that needs to be underlined at this point.
I love how you ended the piece, Kareem. You said you do not want to rush to judgment, you want to rush to justice. What does justice look like to you?
Oh, well, I think justice will look like maybe reinforcing the consent decrees that have been sent out to a number of police departments to change their culture and try to get involved in de-escalation. The Supreme Court is very tough on people who try to get cops to be held accountable. I think a lot of those decisions, we have to find a legal way to deal with cops, with bad cops. That, the good cops, the overwhelming majority of cops are good cops, and they need to be protected in all of this too, because they have a very important job. So we got a lot of work to do, and all of us have to be involved in it. Every American.
Yeah, and I think it's also important to point out that most police officers, men and women, are really dedicated to their job and want to do the right thing, and most of them do the right thing. What we don't want is for people to start vilifying cops in all of this. And you see the police coming out to support the protesters in numbers that most people have never seen before. I think that's important.
It's absolutely important, Gail. It's something that has to be done, and all of us, all Americans, have to come together and push this, make something happen. It's so clearly in front of us that this issue has to be dealt with.
I hope things are different this time. I want to thank you, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, for your time. And may I just say, this has nothing to do with the interview, you have one of the best decorated backgrounds in your home I've ever seen. It's very pretty. So bravo to you and your decorating team, whoever that is. It's beautifully done. I'm going to call and get some tips on that. Thank you, sir.